Mr. Ray, you stand charged with 2 counts of the felony offense of committing an aggravated assault against a public servant, and you are also charged with the felony offense of burglary of a habitation with the intent to commit a felony.
Officers were assigned to investigate an officer-involved shooting that occurred at a location in Harris County. The officer initially traveled to the hospital where he met with the complainant, a deputy. The complainant had been shot in the right buttocks. The bullet exited his groin region. He was currently being treated for his injury. He informed officers that he responded to a disturbance call. Upon arrival, he met with a witness. She lived in the house at that address and informed the officer her ex-husband, later identified as the defendant, broke into her home, was currently inside. The officer stated he observed the defendant in the garage area, approached him. He remembered being shot in the leg by the defendant, but was unable to elaborate how. He was medicated and groggy at the time. Officers then traveled to the offense location, where they spoke with complainant number 2, another deputy. Complainant number 2 stated that he responded as a backup unit for complainant number 1, the first deputy. He parked along the curb near the residential home, exited his vehicle. As he did so, he saw complainant number 1 in the residence garage. He saw complainant number 1 talking with the defendant in the garage. He saw muzzle flashes consistent with a firearm. Complainant number 1 then ran from the house, falling down in the front yard, claiming to have been shot. He observed the defendant exit the garage, brandish a black semi-automatic firearm in his direction. Complainant number 2 advised he discharged his firearm multiple times at the defendant, causing him to run back into the home. The defendant was able to escape capture at that time by running to the backyard, breaking through neighbors' fences, and traveling along a nearby bayou. The second complainant officer said that he didn't know for sure if the defendant shot at him, only that he pointed the gun in his direction. Officer spoke with another responding officer, who stated that she arrived, observed both complainant officers walking towards the house where the defendant was located. She drove to the end of the street and met with the ex-wife, who was waiting in her motor vehicle. As she did that, she heard multiple gunshots from the direction of the other officers. She did not observe the shooting occur. This officer then spoke with what's going to be complainant number 3, who stated that she received text messages on her phone from the defendant indicating he was in her house, going to throw away her property. She stated that at a nearby bar, traveled home to her home. Upon seeing the defendant on the property, she backed away, notified officers. Officers responded a minute or 2 later. Complainant 1 officer arrived. The third complainant stated that he spoke briefly with her, identified which house was hers. She saw the defendant in the driveway approaching the complainant 1 officer. She stated she heard the officer say, "You need to put your weapon down, you're intoxicated." Following this, she said that they both walked into the garage. She heard multiple gunshots. She stated that she didn't see anyone shot, took cover immediately because she feared for her own safety at that time. She stated that she had divorced the defendant 2 weeks ago. She stated that the house is in her name. He agreed to an uncontested divorce, so it was her property alone. She advised that she had changed the locks months ago and he didn't have a key. She said he had moved most of his belongings out of the house, currently lived out of his car most days. Officers were able to locate a Record of the divorce filed May 29th, 2019 in Harris County. The officer was able to ascertain that complainant number 3 was the sole property owner of that house. Discharged bullet casings in the driveway and garage of the residence indicated the defendant fired his weapon while in the garage near the entrance door to the house, while in the driveway several feet away. The ones in the house were consistent with shooting the first complainant officer, and the ones in the driveway were consistent with shooting at complainant number 2 officer. The defendant was found around 6 a.m. to 6:30 while attempting to hide from law enforcement. He was near a gas station close to the bayou that extended away from the scene of the offense. He was found in possession of a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, the same description as provided by the officers, and it was consistent with the 9mm casings found in the driveway and the garage area. He was transported to the police station, interviewed by this officer. During the interview, the defendant admitted to illegally entering the house by sticking his arm through a doggy door, unlocking the door to enter the house. He admitted to texting complainant number 3, telling her he was there. He admitted to shooting complainant number 1 officer. The defendant stated he was approached by complainant 1 officer after exiting the patrol vehicle. The defendant stated he shot at officer complainant number 1 because that officer tried to take his gun from him after he refused to turn it over. The defendant stated this made him angry because he didn't think the officer had a right to do that, so he shot him in response. The defendant said he didn't remember shooting at another officer, but vaguely remembered being shot at. The defendant stated this caused him to turn around, flee into the garage, flee through the back door, through neighbors' fences. The defendant stated he ran because he didn't want to get caught, because he knew he had done something wrong. The defendant also stated he normally carried the gun in his car. However, he said he put it in a holster on his hip that night because he thought he might encounter a new boyfriend of complainant number 3 in the home and needed to be prepared.
Mr. Ray, there is probable cause for your arrest on all 3 charges. They are assigned to the 339th District Court. The judge of your court is Maria Jackson. Mr. Ray, are you planning to request a court-appointed lawyer to represent you in these cases?
Either that or a hired lawyer.
Well, at this time, are you going to request a court-appointed lawyer?
Yeah.
Would you like for the Public Defender's Office to represent you during the hearing we're going to have right now? Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams.
I would ask for a $75,000 bond on the 2 aggravated assaults against public servants, a $50,000 bond on the burglary with intent to commit another felony case. Mr. Ray is showing a 1-1 with no criminal history at all, Judge. He is 9 years old. He's lived in Katy for the last 10 years. Currently, he lives alone. He does have one 12-year-old daughter who lives with her mother. That is not the witness in this case. He's paying $250 a month in child support. Currently, he was employed at Honda Cars of Katy as a salesman for the last 4 months, making $2,000 a month. Prior to that, he worked at the Holiday World RV in Katy, most recently for 3 months from December 2018 to March of 2019. But he also worked there for 3 years, from 2013 to 2016, Judge. And he's also worked at Camping World in Katy. He does have an associate's degree from Pikes Peak Community College in Colorado, and that's in multimedia and graphic design. And he will have transportation to court, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Kennedy?
Your Honor, the state filed a motion in each case requesting a $1 million bond in each case, stating that the defendant is presently charged with aggravated assault of a public servant causing serious bodily injury, aggravated assault of a public servant by threatening with a deadly weapon, and burglary of a habitation. The defendant, as alleged in the complaint under this case, admitted to traveling to the burglary complainant's home, making entry with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, lying in wait for a return. The defendant further admitted that upon seeing officer number 1 in full uniform emerging from a marked police car, fired several shots at that officer, striking him once and what would have been a fatal wound but for the immediate intervening medical attention he received after being life-flighted. The defendant also stated he was fully armed because while he normally keeps his gun in his car, he wanted to be prepared to encounter his ex-wife complainant and any new boyfriend. The state of Texas believes that the defendant, by these actions and statements, not only presents an extreme and immediate danger to the life of law enforcement and the complainant number 3, but also to all the citizens of Harris County. The defendant faces a maximum sentence of life on each of the 3 cases currently filed, gives him limitless incentive to flee the jurisdiction and evade justice. The defendant has shown he has access to firearms, will not hesitate to use them in subverting the authority of the laws of the state of Texas in his mission to carry out domestic violence. Additionally, the state filed a motion requesting no contact with the 3rd complainant, ankle monitoring with GPS, surrendering all weapons, a scram device if he is able to make the $1 million bonds.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kennedy. All right, the court agrees the events presented here do indicate a very serious level of premeditation. The events that unfolded amount to basically an ambush of complainant number 3, Mr. Ray's ex-wife, and these 2 very brave police officers. I do believe that Mr. Ray's behavior, as alleged, demonstrates that he does not value the lives of others or the safety of those who protect us. And so I do have to agree, and I will set the bonds in each of the first-degree aggravated assault cases at $1 million. I'm going to set bond on the burglar with the intent to commit another felony case in the amount of $500,000 because I have significant concerns about the safety of the complaining witness, Mr. Ray's ex-wife, since she was the intended target of the violence. And again, but for those brave officers who went in before her, it sounds as though she would have been injured herself. So I'm setting bonds again in the amount of $1 million for each of the aggravated assault cases and $500,000 on the burglary with intent for a total of $2.5 million. Mr. Ray, sir, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may return to your seat at this time.